Hey, what's going on everybody? Joe Menza here, and thanks for joining me for another painting. I'm using 10 by 14 arches, 140 pound, and of course the large Ron Ranson goat hair brush. And I've already put some water on, and just putting a quick clip on here. And I'm going to do something with some really bright light in it. So we're going to take some little bit of yellow ochre, some raw sienna, maybe a combo of the two, and just put our sort of a background element in here. Not going to be too shy with the color. We're going to leave the center open. Just leave a nice circle of light in the middle there. Circle of light. Now I got to pay Disney. Okay, so we're going to go in back to the palette. We're going to get some ultramarine blue and a little bit of Payne's gray. And we're just going to come in from the top, nice and dark. Again, being careful not to disturb too much of that light area in the center. If you don't have any paint in that area, it'll be the brightest thing. You'll need sunglasses to look at it. Again, a little bit darker, a little more ultramarine blue, a little bit more Payne's gray. Alright, so now we're going to put in some background elements. So we're just going to put in some light, I don't know, you can call them trees, or maybe they're just little hills with snow on them. Just something in the distance to fade everything back. Very, very light. The light in the sky is kind of the star here. Okay, now I'm going to take some of the same sky colors and just put in a little bit of This is going to sort of define the little pathway, or it could be a little river, whatever you want it to be. We haven't really committed to anything yet. Putting some more foreground foliage in, sort of keeping with the same shapes. When you're painting, just go with shapes. Don't try too hard to paint specifically. I mean, go with a shape. Let the brain fill in the pieces. So I'm just putting a little yellow in the center here just to sort of reflect that bright light in the sky. A little spray of water just to keep things wet. And just attaching a little bit of a base, sort of a little bit of a hill maybe. I want to retain a little bit of that since it's a wintry look. Retain some of the paper color. But the brightest thing will be the center part there in the sky. That'll be the real eye catcher. Just cleaning that up a little bit with a clean brush. And just absorbing a little bit of cloth. You've probably noticed in my videos I'm not one to use any kind of masking fluid or anything. I'd rather just kind of wipe it off. I don't really plan that far ahead. I just kind of see something in my head and then I let it take shape. Just kind of dragging down a little bit of the color from this foliage. Almost kind of give it a shadowy effect. A lot of things you can do while the paint's still wet. And just a little more foreground here. I never know when I do these, I might cover something up at some point. But if I'm happy with something, I'll try not to do that. That background looks a little more like an ice wall than probably foliage, which is fine. It's one of those happy accidents, of course, but it's just something to give us some distance. If I put something a little too heavy on, I can go back at it with the brush. The spray bottle, I mean. I wiped a little away of the center there to give it even more light. Now we'll start defining the edges of either a path or a iced over river, whatever you want to see out of it. It's just a little too heavy for me. Just kind of want you leading back to the light there. Coming in with a little bit of a fan brush. Sometimes I like the randomness of the bristles. They're much stiffer. They're not natural hair. Just sort of blending in a little ultramarine blue there. Kind of not real super happy with it at this point. But again, as long as it's wet, keep it open, we can kind of mold it. Shape it. It's like almost a little too straight, too V-shaped. I'm taking the small goat hair brush, just kind of blending that in, just to give it sort of a blurriness, so it doesn't look so hard. Just a dry brush with no paint on it, no water. So on this side here, I am going to cover up a little bit. Zoom in here. We'll just throw in a little pine tree, just blotting in with the fan brush. Like I said, I like the randomness of the bristles. And you could do the same thing with the Ron Ranson brush. It's just that these bristles are a little more separated. Coming back with a little cad yellow hue, just to put a little light on top of the branches. And just put in a little shadowy area at the base. You can see it's coming together now. Just kind of blotting that up a little bit with the tissue. Now it looks like it's attached to the ground. Now I'm just going to put a little something here. Some little grassy things sticking up out of the ground. I get a little too heavy with it, actually. Now it just kind of looks like a mound. So I give it a little spray with the spray bottle. Just spread a little with my finger here, just to look a little shadowy underneath. Could be anything, really. Just coming back in with the fan brush just to make it look more spiky. I'm going to try to keep coming up with terms for certain things. Just a little patch of something. Maybe there was a tree there, it's gone now. And I'll think about that while I just define this edge here. Again, really using the same colors. Ultramarine blue. This is more of a limited palette here. Ultramarine blue, Payne's gray, cad yellow hue. Paintings work best. They seem like you stick with a theme if you are going to make a yellow heavy or a blue heavy painting, then you kind of incorporate that into the other colors. I'm just taking the fan brush and a little white gouache, just tapping in. Maybe a little snow fell on this pine. Same thing over here. It's going to help this grassy area, whatever this thing is. Just kind of dry brushing that a little bit. I don't know what it is, but I keep blobbing into this spot here. There's always one spot on your painting. It's a little bit of an eyesore for you. That's what leads to fiddling. When you have something, you keep going back at it again. That's the very definition of fiddling. So we hit it with the spray bottle. Dab it a little bit, break it up. And I'll go back to something else. I'll come back to that. Gives it a chance to dry. And I'm just touching up the darker areas. You put a little too much white, and you come back and put a little darker shade in there. Same thing on the other side. Just some little grassy things poking up out of the ground. I just keep looking around when I get to this point. What does this need here? Does this need a little shadow? Would it benefit from a little bit of snow? And sometimes I do that, and then I say, well, that didn't really quite do the trick. And that you run into a little danger of overworking and turning things into mud. So there's a point you don't want to overstep, really. That point is you almost got to, kind of figure out for yourself a little bit. By defining this edge, we really get a dimensional effect of where the ground meets either the path or the ice. Whatever you see. Do you see a frozen river going out to sea? Do you see a pathway leading out to something? You never can tell because in the wintertime, frozen areas look, well, a lot of times they look black, really, honestly. Little frozen rivers and things are almost black looking. But if you had this much light pouring down, maybe. See, I see like that little blob in the middle there, and it sticks out to me. My eye keeps gravitating toward it. And this tree looks too lonely here, so we'll give him a buddy. See, I'm just kind of pushing that in there. Again, going for shapes. There's some people out there, there's some artists that they do some beautiful trees. I'm not one of them. I'm just sort of a shapes guy. But when you stand back from the room, you're watching this on a video, so you're seeing this very close up. But when you stand 5 feet back from the painting, it makes perfect sense. And just coming back in with the fan brush, tapping in just branch by branch where there'd be some snow. Again, working on the mound, as we'll call it. Could be anything, really. It could be some area that remelted and froze over. That's why I say you go with shapes and kind of let people see what they see. A lot of times people say, "Oh, it's a nice, yeah, great." I mean, you see what you see. If it's not what I intend, as long as you see something and you enjoy it, I guess it's. And then you can remember it for next time and say, "Well, it looked a little too much like this," and I'm just happy if people like it. That's it. So we got a light background. I'm just tapping in some color here. Contrast against that light background. And we'll put in a few little guys here. Little pines. Not really too adept with these little ones. Takes a steady hand, really. So you can see how much those bristles are spread apart. Give you that. I ordered these like a 3-pack off of Amazon. They weren't expensive at all. And I just wanted something, just wanted some brushes I could kind of abuse. Varying it up a little bit here, I've got some cad yellow and some ultramarine blue. You can hopefully see that, how it's not just a solid color. Try to avoid that. I try to avoid that. These are getting worse as I put them in, I think. Again, it's a shape. I think we're going to leave it here. I think that looks pretty good. To take a quick close-up, look at our bright light. I popped a couple of birds in. We've got our trees and our frozen path or river, lake, whatever. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, leave any comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.